Hello, everybody. Right, normally get who am I? I'm Dave. That's what it says on my LinkedIn profile. I do spend probably far more of my time doing that bit than anything else sometimes. But, yes. 5 years ago. Hello.
Hello. Sorry, I'm late. Chocolate is night.
It's always an excuse for you.
What can I say?
So 5 years ago, I was working at Corp Cyber, and we were sponsoring some crappy conference, a B-side somewhere. Yeah, and Ben, who's the only person that does anything at that B-side, phoned me up one evening while I was building another employee's desk in their garden shed, and said, could you come and do a talk because somebody's dropped out? I went, sure. And then he phoned me back and went, it was the keynote from second day, could you do that? I'm like, sure. Got a couple of days, I should definitely be able to come up with a talk. And while we were, a lot of it was while we were driving from Glasgow to some crappy place, that I sat in the back of the car and wrote a choose your own adventure style talk. And that was the title of it because I had to come up with it. And it looked like that. And so basically the idea was that people could just pick a number and I would talk about it. And we would just keep doing it until I ran out of time. I always like to do something vaguely funny in my talks, so there was a slightly amusing one. And because I'd come up with this as soon as they asked me to do it, I went, I'm definitely going to have to mess with Scott McGrady. I'm going to terrify him. So I basically sat and told him all about this new Nerf pistol that I'd bought, and I'd taken the springs out and replaced the springs with really big ones. I was really scared the thing was just going to explode half the time I actually talked about it, but my God, when the bullets came out of this thing, it hurt. And then he's standing at the back, and went, that came up, everybody laughed, and he kind of looked a bit thingy, and I went, no, we're doing it. And it looked like this. The reason he's standing kind of like that is fear. And he'd actually was facing me and said, oh no, turn sideways. Definitely turn sideways. And I'd given him safety glasses, and then I got my little cowbell hat out of my bag. And then...
Yay.
And the relief. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, that's kind of funny. We can do that. And so the format was quite straightforward. And so I did it a few times. I did it for like 2-3 years. Basically every time I would just keep swapping new topics out. So as something interesting happened, or I came across interesting research or something like that, I could swap out the individual things, and it made the same talk dead easy to do because it was always fresh. I did get a little bit fancy every now and again. Donan, who we love, there was a few things. He went on a panel, talked about space. He knew nothing about space, but he just got dragged onto a panel. So every now and again, everyone just showed space. And yeah, so yeah, to mess with him, I put on, instead of having can you shoot a cup, it was like, oh, that shot was really easy, a blind space Viking could have done that. As soon as I said space, of course, he just like switched straight down. And so we got him up on stage, we gave him this lovely Viking hat that I'd wrapped in like LED lights, put a blindfold on him, and I gave him this big Nerf rifle that had a webcam mounted to it, and then the audience was basically making him move up, down, left, right. What he didn't know is that as soon as he was blindfolded, we put a cup on his head, and then I went across the other side of the stage. When he fired, I fired and knocked the cup off his head. So everybody clapped, and he thought, yeah, I've done great. Until he saw the video later. Did get a bit fancy with the slides. I mean, you saw the kind of basic links and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I really wanted to do something just a little bit more fancy. And so I decided that, like, oh, right, okay, if you do this, I'd really like the lights to do this. That sounds easy to do. Turns out you can't do that in PowerPoint without getting incredibly funky and weird. And if I add that slide with its animation into the slide deck, it kills the rest of the slide deck. I cannot do slides because it uses custom shows. But it did work, and it was kind of cool. But I can never put it back in a slide and never recommend anybody ever use custom slideshows in PowerPoint because it's shit. But after 5 years, decided to talk to SteelCon because I've never talked to you. I was like, okay, let's do SteelCon. And I thought, should I pull it out? And then I'd have thought about it and went, well, out of the questions that it did, given how much turmoil and stuff like that there is in cyber and all the crap that's happened over the last 5 years, how many of the questions are even relevant anymore? And so, I kind of looked through them all, or told ChatGPT to go look through all the versions of the PowerPoints. It told me I'd done a great job and they were amazing talks. It was like, thanks, ChatGPT. So much validation. But then it sadly went, well, actually, it breaks down into these kind of 7 categories over the 3 years you did it. It was like, you know what? Yeah. There's a lot of like incident response stuff, because it did a lot of incident response, bits about tech. The first ones were a lot about helping, because at the beginning I was doing a lot higher than SOC analysts, and I was doing a lot of talks. I went to LAX and did the talk there while having COVID. Who knew? That's why I wasn't feeling too well. So there was a lot of like getting into cyber. How do you choose what certs you do? Like, how do you choose which career path in cyber? And as time went on, it actually became more about how you work inside cyber. And now, after 5 years, what do we do? This took ages. And I love you for recognising it. So, it's a choose your own talk, sort of. I need 3 volunteers. Quickly, because we don't have a lot of time. Good. Right, Tom. This is probably going to break really quickly. In fact, we'll just do... Because I can hold this bit.
One.
Open the back bit. Balls. Right. So, entry is 10 points, and we'll just do figure it out. Right, so, ladies first. You have to pull it back, but it's a very basic sort of... Closest to 20. Career. There we go. Right.
Sign off.
So, careers. So, when I talked about careers, there was stuff like, don't volunteer, tell me everything you fucked up, what to wear to work, plastic palm trees, bullying, steel talks. The thing I liked about doing these talks is everybody got to choose the question, but the question never took you where you thought it was going to go. So, when tell me everything you fucked up is about interview skills, but actually it's about having a good interview relationship, not necessarily like you think I'm going to tell you about the time I fucked up. Doesn't happen. But what to wear at work is actually, well, you can be an individual with anything you like. But if the person on the other that you're trying to give the pen test results to, or you're trying to convince something, looks at you and judges you, they're not listening to you, which means you are failing. Doesn't matter how good you are as a pen tester. If you turn up and the people won't listen to you because of what you're wearing, yes, that's on them. But you as a professional are supposed to be able to communicate. So if you cannot communicate the problems, there's no point in being there. So it was everything was a slight twist on the question. So these basically came down to like, how do I get noticed, or how do I work inside cyber? And a lot of it was understanding your role. Like plastic palm trees is about the fact that like people go like, what's it got to do with plastic palm trees? Plastic palm trees is about the fact that in how many people here work in an MSSP? How many people here work in security? Nah. The only people that work in security are MSSPs or vendors. Everybody else, if you work in a company that makes plastic palm trees, your job is to help make plastic palm trees. It's about understanding the fact that security is not an island. It's actually about What you're supposed to be doing is help the business do business. You can sit there and go, no, I'm in security, but you will not get anywhere inside that business. So, communication, controlling your own ego. If you wander around telling everybody they're wrong or saying no to everybody, well, enough people will not help you at 2 o'clock in the morning when you're trying to figure out what in hell that is. And about, protecting your own time and stuff like that. So, are these things still relevant today? Yes, you have to protect your time. You have to avoid burnout. Beware, but be understanding of false urgency. Everybody will come screaming to you saying, this is really, really important. All the time. It's called false urgency, and while you can look at it and go, that doesn't really need to be done by the end of the day, it's not going to be a disaster, nobody's going to die, it's still really important to that person. Being mindful of that. It's probably the hardest bit of my day sometimes. But yeah, if you're going to build your brand, please, for the love of God, don't put AI-generated slop onto LinkedIn. There are other websites and community things available, but don't put AI slop on there. I don't even look at LinkedIn anymore. It's just a dumpster fire. There are plenty of people that think that massive follower counts means that they are right and popular. Haha. It's not really about getting noticed anymore. So by the time you go through a career, it's actually how do you just bloody survive it. Loads of people leave cyber. Bizarrely, I had conversations with 2 random different CISOs that were talking about giving it all up and farming in the same week. It was really weird. Right. Oh, it does. Yeah, use this. Right, come on. Tom.
Nice.
Oh, whoa. Biz. Going with the dull topics, but okay. So, as we said, plastic palm trees, that's what you do for a living. Plastic palm trees and risk, and a lot of these talks when we was doing them was the fact that getting really excited about cybersecurity stuff while you're trying to relate to a business, everybody glazes over and they stop listening to you. So even if you've got the best point in the world, if they don't understand you, what's the point? Risk is looked down upon by everybody that wants to pop shells and you are not ninja, just saying. But yeah, the talk about risk, or the topic with risk, it was always about the fact that when people come out of uni and you say, what do you want to be? Nobody says, I want to get into risk. Nobody, ever. Everybody originally would say, I want to be a pen tester. You go, oh, you like writing reports? What are you talking about? And then for a while it was, I want to be a incident responder. Oh, great. Do you like writing reports? No. And then it was like, oh, I'm going to be a threat analyst. Do you like writing reports? And ultimately, what we do is we write reports or try to come up with some way to communicate risks. Risk is the only reason we exist. And try to demystify it from the scary thing that is InfoSec or cybersecurity risks into something the business understands is our entire job. Doesn't matter whether you're a pen tester or a SOC analyst or a CISO. Ultimately, you are just talking about trying to, how do we deal with risks? Is it still relevant today? Yeah. Nowadays, yeah, I mean, we've got everybody vibe coding, so that's fun. But again, that's just, what's the problem with everybody vibe coding and doing random stuff? It's the risks that they are suddenly introducing. But ultimately, you cannot stop the business doing these things, so you have to keep up with them. And nowadays, you can't just be good at cyber, you have to understand all of these things, because otherwise you're not really doing your job right. There's no point doing incident response if you don't actually ever call the insurance when you've got it, because you could save the company an absolute fortune. There's no point in doing incident response if you don't know which regulators you need to phone. Were you supposed to notify somebody within a certain number of hours? Have you just actually incurred a whole bunch more fines than actually doing nothing with the incident would have done? Maybe. So actually understanding all of these things is about stepping up and moving through the business. And so if you want to be good at your job, you can understand a lot of these things. I have taught lawyers how to like report things to the ICO. I don't know why I needed to teach a lawyer who was a DPO how to report an incident to the ICO. And similarly, I've looked at regulators and auditors and went, you should be asking me about that thing. And you're like, oh. So, yeah, if you've got a terrible auditor that comes in to do whatever you're auditing, your ISO, your SOC 2, whatever, if you've got a crap auditor, it's good for the business in terms of getting the cert, but not great in terms of furthering cybersecurity priorities. Because if you come in and they go, yeah, everything's fine, everybody goes, all right, we don't need to do anything. But no, all this stuff's on fire. That guy's an idiot. We should have been hauled over the coals for these things, but, you know, you pay me to do a song and a dance, and I do a bit of a song and a dance, and he looks over there instead of looking over there. But ultimately, yeah, like you need to understand all of these things if you're in an organisation that has certain risk profiles. So if you're going to go and work you're applying for a job. You've seen it on cyber, for example, and go, I'm going to go and apply for that job. One of the things I always do is go and look at what the risk profile I think is for that organisation. Doesn't matter what job. If I was going in for a SOC analyst, which there are days I think I should just go to that, much easier, or whether I'd be going for a CISO job, I always look at the company. What do they do? What sector are they in? Are there regulations they need to worry about? And then when I go into the interview, I ask them what they think the answers to these things are. And if there's a massive difference, that's worth a conversation. If we're completely aligned, I look really good because I can walk in and go, hey, you need to worry about this, 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 and this. And they go, yeah, we know, we're doing this and we're working on this. And go, great, I can help you with that. If they go, oh God, we didn't know we needed to do all that stuff, I get hired because I look really good. But similarly, there might be red flags for working for that company if they don't understand the risk profiles. Because if they don't understand what the risk profile is, are they going to spend the right amount of money in cyber? So if you go into a normal company, they should spend between 8 and 11 or 12% of their budget on cyber. The IT budget on cyber, right? It's a very, very big average. But if you're working somewhere where they've got compliance to worry about, then you should be up in the 15 to 20%. Closer to 15, 16% generally if you're averaging it. And it depends exactly what sector you're in, exactly what compliance you need to do, and how many countries you're in, etc. But if they're not spending the right amount of money on it, can you win? Is there any point in you going into a job where they want you to achieve something where it's going to be impossible because they're not going to spend the money on it? Are you going to be fighting every single day for like £2.50 instead of we need to go and buy that and it's £250k? I'd much rather argue about the £250k than £2.50. But if I have to argue about every £2.50, that's going to make it really, really difficult to get anything done. So, nowadays, if you are doing anything vaguely security and leadership related, to be honest, even if you're just working with IT, if you're a SOC analyst trying to like work with IT on settings that should be set out to them, you are not really protecting computers anymore. You are trying to influence decisions. You're trying to tell people we should do this instead. Back in the day, it was do we have EDR on all the machines? We should worry about that. What does the firewall look like? Nowadays, there's just so much of it that everything has to be done by policy at scale, and that is all decision making. Getting people to understand why something's important, because it's probably going to make their life a little more complicated. Because we're scared. That's what we do. Right. Oh, Samantha?
Hang on, here we go.
Ooh. We're going with 80, so that's not go IR. The one that everybody always does first. So, incident response. I've done a lot of incident responses, big ones, little ones. And the first couple that were on there when I did the very first one was what's the worst incident ever and why what people drive Mars. And both of them are like war stories to a degree. But when, again, the twist is, the worst incident ever then makes you go, well, what's your definition of worst? And people go, oh, because they don't think about it. I mean, 90-odd% of the time, worst incident ever was the first one that the audience picked, straight off. Like, ghouls, all of them. Everybody wants to look at Rubberneck at the car crash. But worst incident ever is the the worst incident for me, this was the monetary value, but actually the people that, the guy that was compromised, his business email account was compromised, bad guy did stuff, committed a fraud. The monetary value was it 600-700k, so it wasn't small, by any means, large by a lot of, businesses in terms of, oh my god, that's a cybersecurity incident. And the reason I was there was the insurance company wanted the incident response looked at. But actually the lassie got fired that was supposed to check with the guy that was compromised on the decision, but it was COVID, so she couldn't actually go to his desk, which is what the process was. So instead of phoning him, she just sent him an email. So that guy went, oh yeah, definitely, that's a new bank account details. Just send the money. The guy whose account was compromised, and he'd done nothing wrong, maybe he clicked the phishing link. Maybe. I don't know how they got his password. But he was off sick with stress for over 6 months. My investigation into the incident was delayed until he came back off stress. And I had an hour interview with him, and I spent easily 40, 45 minutes just telling him it wasn't his fault. Because nobody had said that to him. And he was off. I mean, the company had lost, hundreds of thousands. And for me, that was the worst incident I've had to deal with on a personal level. And I wasn't even in the incident response team, but for me, it was looking at the impact that had on a completely innocent human being, got completely screwed over. I've dealt with, incidents of kids' cancer charities being hacked and stuff like that. I mean, you just sit there and go, oh God, scum of the earth. Well, that was actually having to sit down and talk to a person that had been affected by that to the point where they'd have to be off sick with stress for 6 months. It's kind of horrible. Certainly not the biggest in monetary value I've had to deal with. But, yeah. So, a lot of incident response isn't about the bit of malware or finding the bad guy. Yes, you have to track where they are, make sure you infect them properly, get the system back up and running and all these things. But actually, it's about people, making sure the people are right. If you're running an incident management is a skill in itself. I watched one the other day unfold, and it was horrific. An incident response team didn't do their job, didn't manage the incident, and I think the incident cost about 60k, I reckon. There wasn't an actual incident. There was no breach, but they managed to rack up 60k worth of costs to the business, including nearly 20k that went out of the business to an external incident response company, because the incident responder didn't do their job right. So incident response, incident management is really important. It's still really hard. It's about people and pressure. If you're in an incident, always make sure that the kettle is on, and if it's going to take a while, make sure that you know who's going to order pizza. So, is it still relevant today? Well, yeah. I mean, tabletop exercises, they are important, but if you don't do them right and you're doing them the same time, the same people over and over again, you can't keep it interesting, you're failing as a tabletop exerciser. I'm really fed up with people coming in and going, right, we're going to do ransomware. You're like, oh, that's completely unnovel. Right. Okay, we've got ransomware. That team's going to do that, that team's going to do that, that team's going to do that. Oh, the experts will be involved because we're going to take all the machines down. Okay, they're going to do that, they're going to do these things. Tabletops are a skill in themselves, and keeping them interesting. The most fun one I ever did was I took a company that is a fintech running on AWS and said, AWS, there's rumours that there is a 0 day in AWS that means that bad guys can go in and look at your data and there are no logs of it. But it's a rumour. And then they went, so what does the cyber team do? Nothing, it's a rumour, we've got nothing to look for. Off you go, Exco, what you going to do? And they dealt with it really, really well. I was really surprised. The tech bit went about all over the place because they literally just refused to give them definites. Because in an incident, you don't get definites. You get a whole bunch of conjecture and theory that you have to try and prove, And when you can't do that, that's when the interest, that's when the pressure ramps up. So I was like, well, you know what? I want Exco to be under pressure. What are you going to do? Are you going to? And at one point they were using Jira, so I had Atlassian turning everything off to preserve until they found something out. And then they went, well, there weren't any ticket systems, but then they had their customers demanding that they keep their systems on because they didn't believe it was a problem. And so you had customers claiming one thing, other customers claiming another thing, give the Exco pressure. That was an interesting tabletop for me because I actually sat there and watched people having to make decisions, and the sales team were amazing. They went, we'll do this, and these people will do that, we'll do that, we'll do that, we'll do that. And I'm like, oh, out of all the people to not fall apart, I was not expecting the sales team, but they were absolutely fantastic because they're used to dealing with people and then like uncertain things. Like, all right, okay, brilliant. But tabletop, I'm very bored with ransomware. I do a lot of stuff with either fintechs or people that have got production systems that have very critical data and stuff like that in them. And so I just go in and go, production and corporate can never touch each other. Yoink. That's it. Everything we do, just everything. And then they go, but what do you do with ransom? Well, in the corporate network, I don't give a rat's ass. That could be the IT team and the MSSP. They can go and deal with that, and that would be a bad thing. But the thing the most important thing that I have to worry about is the critical data over there. And the services being up to the customers to access it, and then whatever you do on the corporate network does not affect that. Not immediately. We could probably go a week before, we had to start worrying about. But ultimately, it's a ransomware that just became normal. Everybody's got breach fatigue. Who cares if, H&M get breached tomorrow and your email, oh my God, my email address got out. Okay. Yeah, third-party incidents are just a giant pain in the tonsils. Everybody runs around, have we got that? Like, what version have we got in that? So that's biggie. SaaS failures, cloud identities, AI identities, the AI stealing your identity. Hey, it's much easier for the AI just to take the cookies and go off and you're like, how do I prove that somebody did something? So those things are interesting. Legal is more important than ever. Regulators, depending on the industry you're in, and dealing with the executives. One of the incidents I looked at the other day was just within 10 minutes, the MD of the company was suddenly involved in the call, even though there was no proven incident. And then it got all the way up into a group company and they were running about. And I was like, nobody's done the basic investigations yet. How the hell have we managed to get all the way up to CEOs of multinational companies? What? Stop. Where have your processes broken? Nowadays, it's not good enough to have an incident response plan. Your incident response plan is really just about business continuity. It's a major incident for the company. You're just a part of it. If you go and build a cyber incident response strategy and a whole bunch of processes are working 24/7, and meanwhile there's an operations team that already works 24/7 and deals with outages on a platform, what are you doing? You just turn and say, hey guys, if it's a cyber thing, phone me. Thanks, we've got 24/7 coverage. It's much easier. So work with the organisation, and you're really about resiliency. Everybody goes, accept the fact that you're probably going to be breached in some way. What would you do when it happened? How would the business keep running? Yeah, and then convincing the business to do stuff about it. That's the fun game. Oh, we're back to, okay.
Oh, the burn.
40, which is the third number. Ethics. Right. So, the talks about ethics. Profit from fear, talk about the community, bullying, making IT like you. And the reason I talk about making IT like you is the fact that when you are on a site, let's say if the janitor, the receptionist, and the local IT people don't like you, your life is really, really hard. I've seen a guy locked in on a Friday afternoon for 4 hours in a building because he pissed the janitor off. You're like, why would you do it? Oh, he was being a bit of a dick. Yeah, but he's getting the keys. Again, it's you need people, they don't feel they need you. Maybe be nice. But ultimately, stuff like profiting through fear, like running around telling everybody the world's going to go on fire if you don't buy the next shiny silver bullet, detest all that sort of marketing. But there was a lot of stuff like community, what can you do in the community? Bullying is funny. It's the whole bunch, right? Okay, if you bully people, it's fine in the workplace, except, and then you need to figure out exactly what people will not accept, and etc. Inside a company, and ultimately. Stuff like you're going to get asked to monitor for bullying and stuff like that, and you're like, right, okay, what do you do on that stuff? You run away and you ask your manager. If you're a SOC analyst and somebody comes in and says, I need you to tell me everything that employee there did, you go, oh God, that's not a SOC analyst's job. Run away, get HR. If it is HR, great, go find the processes. But as a SOC analyst, looking in people's logs, etc., is not a fun game. You have to talk to them in the kitchen. It's best you don't look too closely at what they look at lunchtime. But lots of this is about what sort of professional I should be. So, yeah, so communicating well, talking to people. If you talk too much about tech, they're going to switch off. You can talk to them about a risk that they understand. You get far much further. And if you work with other teams, I've always asked, when I was training IT help desk people, you get, right, okay, hey, such and such wants this. No, that's definitely not in policy. Right. How about you ask them what they're trying to achieve? Quite often, they'll go, oh, I'm trying to do this. You all go, we've got to over that, so there. Job's done. Instead of saying, no, kindly go yourself, you're going to help someone. That person likes you and says, thank you. You're on a help desk. The help bit is kind of implied in the name. But understanding what people are trying to achieve is a useful life skill. So if somebody's doing something randomly that's breaking their security, you'll get a security level and say, what are they trying to actually do? Are we restricting someone from being able to do the job they need to do? The reason Shadow IT and Shadow Cloud Services and Shadow AI all exist is because the business isn't providing the tool to the people where they can use it. So they go off and they find it themselves. And then they create bunches of risks for us, and it's fantastic. But ultimately, it's about, right, okay, you find those things, you don't slap them, like walk on, don't you dare do that. You go, hey, look, you're using that tool over there, what are you trying to achieve? Right, maybe we need to go buy that and get you a license and make sure that the contracts look right so these people are not using it to train their LLMs. We're not sending sensitive data outside the network. But ultimately, yeah, it's making sure that you understand what people are trying to do, because ultimately we are a service industry and we are there to help the company make plastic palm trees. If we say no to everything, that's not great. If we don't communicate well, we can't actually do our jobs properly. So is it relevant? Yes. The profiting from fear has gone a bit like crazy because we like AI hype, vendor, fears, everything. I gave up an X because it was a bit of a, cesspool, and I hated calling it X. That's probably the first time I've actually called it X. So, wow. But there's the vendor thing, even, I kept LinkedIn because professional contacts, but you look at it, it's just full of slop now. And if it's not fear, it's a look at me post. Or it's some random, person that's just discovered risk. You're like, that's a great post. We knew this 20 years ago. Maybe before you write something, post it, go look up and see if this thing already exists. Doom posting, slot posting, breach theatre, compliance theatre, all of it. I mean, the theatre and breaches and how bad they are and should we do something about them? You're like, right, okay, in the end, figure out the risk and go fix it. Compliance, the tick boxes that is compliance, is always an interesting debate. You need the certs to do business, and yet everybody knows they're not really protecting you in any way. Believe it or not, a PCI DSS certificate is not a force field. Neither is your SOC. But ultimately, it seems like theatre, and sometimes you have to get over that and just saying, oh, yeah, no, we need to do this for these reasons, even though I know it's not materially reducing the risk. If I don't have PCI DSS and I'm taking credit card payments, it's not a risk that on cyber front or InfoSec front I'm actually fixing. It's a business risk in not being able to do business and getting fines, £2,000 per scheme that you're in every month, and horrific breach costs if you did get breached while operating without PCI DSS. All right, that's probably quite important to fix then. That's why we have to go tick those boxes. It's not to enable the force shield. It's to actually allow the business to do its job. So, ultimately, in ethics, just don't be an ass. It's like all of this stuff is new, but next year there'll be a bunch of new, hypey nonsense. There'll be AI version 2, military grades, blah, 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 blah. But ultimately, none of that stuff's going to change. Don't let it change you. Be a nice person to the people around you, and you will get further. Believe it or not. Ooh, right. Oh, look at him.
I smacked a different roll.
60. So I'm going to go with tech. So, our job is not about technology. It's not about technology. The talks. So the one in Raspberry Pis was an interesting one where a certain company doing critical national infrastructure wanted to roll out monitoring of said critical national infrastructure, and we're using Raspberry Pis to do it. You're like, wait, what? It's like, you want to do something this critical and you want to use a 30 quid bit of kit to do it. Oh yeah, it'll save money. Sometimes you get what you pay for. And you're making sure that you're doing the right thing with the right tools. And not necessarily, MVPs or proof of concepts that go into prods, that's never happened in the last 10 seconds, but it probably happened 15 seconds ago. These sorts of things, understanding exactly what we're doing and like making sure we've got the best tools was to talk around, what are the best tools? Do you understand, like who's got your favourite tool? What's your favourite scene? What's the pros and cons? And understanding that you can't wedge yourself to a single tool unless that tool is COBOL, and then you can make a ton of money being a COBOL programmer right now because most of them are dead. I did that again. But yeah, understanding the tech and stuff like that. Ultimately, all of these actually sitting there going to stop talking about technology and figure out what the problem is you're trying to solve. Understand what the person's trying to achieve, what the needs of the business actually are, and then you go, well, actually, with this risk profile, with that, this is the path we should be doing, and you can get the money for it if you put the right business case together. But if you don't understand the problem you're trying to solve, a number of times I walked in, I felt like halfway through the movie, and go, why are we doing this? And everybody kind of looks at you going, well, it turns out it started off as a random idea somebody had in the cafeteria, and suddenly you're in a multi-million-pound project and nobody actually defined what it was that good looked like at the end. You're like, right, wait a minute, stop. I know I'm here to talk about the security aspects of this particular project, but what does good look like? And if people don't have a good answer, that's not a good project. But if you understand what they're trying to do, then you can pick the right tool, then you can go and talk about the limitations. You go, right, okay, are the limitations in the tool, the limitations in our security processes? Do I need to go buy a new threat intelligence feed because you're suddenly going to do business in that area over there? Or you're suddenly using this bit of technology and we have nothing that monitors that. Understanding the tools and then the limitations, and then you can understand the risks. Don't say no to weird tech. Somebody comes up to you saying, hey, I want to use a Raspberry Pi to do this. What are you trying to achieve? And then go, maybe there's a better way of doing that. Making sure you keep yourself future-proof. Everybody, there's a big thing in cyber. We've been saying it for years. You got to keep learning. And a lot of people take that as you need to know the next thing that came out in AWS. You need to understand the next big cloud thing, the next LLM that comes out, the next version. What does it do? That only works so far, because you cannot be an expert in everything. You can be an expert in cloud technology, and even that is probably quite hard nowadays to know every single part of Azure or every single part of AWS. Probably easy to understand every bit of GCP, maybe. But ultimately, keeping yourself future-proof is actually about understanding new technology as it's coming in waves. if you see something that looks vaguely interesting, go off and look at it a little bit, but don't bury yourself into it unless you definitely know you're going to be using it. But it's actually an understanding enough about how things link together. The jack of all trades, master of none. It's making sure that when new tech comes in, it doesn't come as a complete surprise. So, AI is a good example just now. Does anybody know how LLMs actually work? We had an awesome talk at Hack Thursday, the other week, where they actually sat there and went, right, okay, this is how LLMs work. It turns all these words into numbers, does this, and then there's math here, and it does that, and everybody just looked and went, oh, right. But it was really interesting to watch the fact that everybody's been using LLMs, and nobody knows how they work. Right, okay. That would be a nightmare in times gone by. You would never trust something that you couldn't see what call was connected to what, but you're asked to trust a bunch of things in LLMs. But understanding enough about the tech, understanding enough about yourself as you're getting older, to sort of go, am I being biased against something? Maybe GCP is brilliant. I just never needed to use it. And the only time I've ever seen it is when Google were trying to bribe their way into a company and gave everybody jackets and warbox. But yeah, it's okay. So you immediately start building up biases about things that go in your career, and are they holding you back rather than driving you forward? If you completely hate AI, which a lot of people do, especially in cybersecurity, how does that work when you go into the company and they're all desperate to use it? How you say no, it's not secure. We don't understand how the cogs work. The business is going to leave you behind, as will your career. So, relevant today, yeah. We need to know more than just technology. We need to know stuff about your supply chain, secure by design. We need to understand exactly what our business is doing and how it's going to use all those things. But for a long time, everybody had servers. And sometimes you'd find this critical server under someone's desk. That was always fun. When someone went down and everybody went, and the whole, oh my god, the site's down, what happened? The cleaner unplugged the server so they could plug the Hoover in. I have seen that. It's, it happens enough times, or happened enough times. And then we all went mental with virtualization, then we did cloud, we did hybrid cloud, all cloud, and oh god, my god, have you seen the cloud costs? We've gone back to the data center. Where is the cloud? Yeah. Technology keeps moving in weird and wonderful ways. You don't always kind of know where it's going to go. A number of companies have gone into the cloud back. Now if you're in France, you can't use anything except French stuff. But ultimately, everything we do is on somebody else's computer, unless it's the one in front of you. We used to argue over, what was the best EDR? Does anybody ever argue about, what a good EDR is nowadays? Or do you just let purchasing go deal with it and say, I need one of these things? And don't use that one because I hate it. I've got a bias. But yeah, I mean, nowadays it's we're arguing about EDRs and most companies just end up going with Defender because it came with Windows. And they might not even bother with the enterprise license if they're small and God, right? But nowadays it's the context tokens, can we trust the output? And I'm not going to say any more on that because you'd have to come to me and Sam's talk later on to understand that stuff. Right. We've only got 2 left.
Tom, shoot.
It's closest to entry. Right. So we talked about how to break into cyber in the very beginning of the thing. So we're doing things like what actually makes good SOC analysts, what do we do about certain degrees, and these community job opportunities, blue teams, red teams, and the best tools talks and stuff like that. May have had at one point a talk about diversity in there, and then had the sponsor of the conference ask me about how we can get more diversity in his company, because when he started the company, he hired all his pals and they were all white males. And kind of look at him going, the sponsor of the conference, you probably kind of turn and say, you should have mates that are not just white males. which was the immediate thought that went through my head. But ultimately, yeah, there was a lot in there about how to break into cyber, and there's a lot of people asking how to get in, because you had a lot of students, you had a lot of people at the beginning of their careers just wanting to try and get to where the big money is. And ultimately it came down to talking about things like attitude, learning, curiosity. What makes a good SOC analyst? Curiosity and a good work ethic. I can teach you every bit of tech, I can teach you how to investigate stuff, but see if you're not interested. Nah. The certs conversation on the should I go and get certs? If you like getting certs, go get certs. I'm not going to hire you because you've got a cert unless you have a cert that I need for my business. They are not proof of quality. I have many stories about having people with the certification in the exact product and not knowing how to use it. Some people are very good at getting certs. Some people pay somebody else to do the cert for them. But ultimately, yeah, the degree thing, the certs thing, sometimes that'll get you past an HR thing, but a lot of the time, if you're doing good stuff in the community and you're working with people doing networking and stuff like that, you're probably going to be able to get past some of those initial, like keyword searches, and your CV doesn't work in a particular system, which means you always get dropped at the bottom. The entire getting a job thing in cyber is a complete mess just now because we have way more applicants than we have jobs. And 50% of the CVs will just get dropped without ever being looked at. Right. Doesn't matter how good my CV is. And people that ask for a cover letter said, please put a 3-page essay on how you'd be good for this job. Is anybody not just shoving that into ChatGPT and saying, write that? And then on the other end, they're probably having, like, ChatGPT read it and go, should this person be... It's like, we're not just wasting tokens at that point. I'm literally burning trees to have a level of app with no value. So, yeah, understand the job that you're going for and what the requirements are there. So if you want to be a pen tester and red teaming and all that sort of thing, then the certs are really important there. Because if you want to run a pen testing business, you're going to want check team leads and stuff like that. Those are the badges that you need people to have the badges to allow you to be that as an organisation. That's how I can charge twice the amount for the same pen tester, because they've got a badge. But ultimately, yeah, understand where you're going. I have no cert. I have an introduction to cybersecurity principles by the British Computer PCS, yeah. I think that's my only current cert because it doesn't expire. And yet I'm a CISO and a guy that fixes blue teams for them. Community contacts networking, the last X number of jobs I've had have come from knowing people. Being in the right WhatsApp group or being a friend with someone that says, seen this, I've recommended you for it, do you mind? Sure. So, yeah. Get useful tools and skills, yes. Be able to demonstrate it when you're talking to people. If you're going to go and, if the company's a fintech, understand when you're going in, even as a pen tester, just look up what the regulations are. Go ask ChatGPT or Claude on this company, what regulations do you think they'd come under? And then mention them. You don't have to know that much about them, but if you know that they have to be PCI DSS compliant, or you know they need X, Y, and Z, you can turn around and say, all right, okay, what do you use for your ASV scans? You could go look at what an ASV scan is and understand what PCI DSS is and understand the pressures that company's under to keep that certification. Understanding the pain points of the people that you want to work with makes you look really good. Is it relevant? Yeah. Evidence of being able to do things, credentials. You don't go to be a SOC analyst anymore. You're probably going to be working with some sort of AI co-pilot. Don't get precious about it. It's not coming to take your job quite yet. So, hey, we don't get to talk about red and blue teams now because we need to use fancy words like attack-informed defense. Okay. So we just looked at the threats and the risks to the organisation and we built the SOC around that. No, shocker. And yeah, we don't necessarily have tools. Now it's how you integrate things. And yeah, the community online is massively fragmented, and some people are trying to fix it. But ultimately, local conferences, doing things like SteelCon, doing things like V-Sides and stuff like that, and actually chatting to people that you don't know, turn around to the person that you don't know next to you and go, hey, what do you do? That person may get you your next job. 3 jobs down the line. But yeah, it's very rare that you're going to actually get hired just because you're an expert in X. You're probably going to get hired by Capgemini so they can sell you as that person. But a normal company is not going to hire you just because you know the particular tool, because the tools are changing too fast. Now, there's only one left. Whew. Oh, nice. Right, so human. Funny stories. I like to do funny things. I make people shoot guns. I shoot Nerf guns off people's heads. I've done magic. I've done really random things because it makes people stop, think, you're there, look at something serious and then something funny's happening. Those things are very good if you ever do cybersecurity awareness talks inside your organisation. If you stand up and say you should not click on phishing emails if the email address looks slightly dodgy or if it looks like it's talking about urgency, that's really dull. I did cybersecurity awareness for a critical national infrastructure. I made a fake badge, took my own photo, put big ginger paintbrushed hair on, and then went up to the security guard and said, hey buddy, can you do me a favour? And took a selfie with him catching me with my badge. And then went in and explained to them how their badges are really important, but actually they're really safe. They can't be cloned because they've got the right level of encryption and it's lovely, but actually this is why tailgating's important here, because the bad guy can't just copy your cards, but they can walk in behind you. But the funny story, and they'll remember the fact that, I was standing there with the security guard and stuff like that, and then they'll look at the gates, and then they'll go, I shouldn't just hold the door open for people. Engaging with people where they are is always saying, we are all humans, and humans like stories. Everything I've said now has had a whole bunch of random little stories of things that I've done or talked about. If you talk to people about disasters, it always gets people's interest. Because human beings are, as far as we can see, horrible. But yeah, and if you talk to people about mistakes, you should have went to Andy's talk. Sorry guys. But ultimately, if you have fun and you do stuff in the community, it will massively help your career. So, we are here to educate people about risk, whether we do the pen test, so telling the story of explaining why cross-site scripting may actually happen. Don't say, this is the cross-site scripting risk. You go, this is how the bad guy can do it. Demonstrate something. Add humour if you want to, or just say, hey, look, I can turn the website. There was a really nice thing about AI chatbot and a guy buying a Camaro. Chevy Tahoe for $1 because he went in the chatbot and told it. Those are fun stories, but they educate people about the importance of how to design systems properly. But ultimately, engage with people where they are, because everybody is human. And no matter how big and scary the manager is that you're going to have to go and tell X, Y, and Z to, they all put their pants on, one leg at a time. But ultimately, all of these things and where we get to today, which is now 11 o'clock, and the end, is that everything that's done in the last 5 years has been about family, about finding the fact that I have ADHD and might have impacted bits of my life. Burnout, leadership, if you do too much, all of these things. Ultimately, all of these stories are about these things and how they affect me and how I can then give lessons that I have learned. Believe it or not, everybody is getting older. And things like priorities and stuff change, but if you're still trying to work inside your cycle career, all of these things are what I have found valuable in terms of moving my career forward. So, thank you.